letting him in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our workshop today on the 3-minute pitch workshop from the Brink SBDC. So we're going to wait until a couple of more people come in. And let's see. Yeah, so thanks so much for everybody coming together and being a part of this workshop. So again, waiting for a couple more people to show up. We had over like 60 RSVPs, so this is exciting to have everybody here. And I'll preface the whole thing is that I'm going to go through a couple of slides, well, quite a bit of slides. Hopefully that's only going to take me about 20 minutes. I was not able to find anybody who could give a really good example of a 3-minute pitch. I tried to ask a couple of people and they're all busy pitching investors. So they are at different locations and they couldn't come in and do their actual 3-minute. So if I'm saying this up front, if anybody feels like they want to give their 3-minute, to get some feedback, I would appreciate that. You can tell me either in a private chat or in the public chat. The only thing I request is that be as open to yourself as possible, saying, do I really have my 3-minute done? I would love to have two that really are like, I have done a 3-minute, I have timed it, I'm actually pretty good, I've got some people to give me feedback and I'm ready to go. I would love to know those people, to bring those up front first, because we want to have the best examples up. Again, I will cut you off at 3 minutes, so it's a little bit harsh, but that's what we want to do at the end of the presentation that I have. Cool? Okay. Wonderful. So let me, where do I, let's see, I need to do this. There we go. There's where my stuff is. And I want to share. And here we go. Perfection. And let me go. I have to move all these things out of the way so I can see everything. Okay, now I'm in slideshow view and I will have the chat open so I can see it. So welcome to 3-minute pitch prep workshop. I am Dr. Silvia Mah, and I'm one of the advisors at the Brink SBDC. I have over 100 clients that I work with here at the Brink, and we have about 20 to 30 advisors here at the Brink, and also advisors across the bigger SBDC network that can support you in the launch and scale of your business, and then also help you get your pitch deck ready. But this workshop specifically is going to solve two challenges that we have, or two opportunities. Is that one is that anybody who's preparing a 3-minute pitch, we're going to go through what the pitch should look like, some examples from my portfolio companies and other companies that have pitched for different pitch competitions in examples. And then number 2 would be that we are in the process of the San Diego Angel Conference selection of the quarterfinalists that actually pitch next week. So I know this is an evergreen video. So I want to just make sure that we're going to talk about San Diego Angel Conference as a bubble, right? Saying that it is an opportunity next week to do a 3-minute. But if you are seeing this on YouTube or later, it's anytime that you have a pitch competition that's coming up, it's always nice to refresh what does the 3-minute look like and be able to get some feedback from an advisor to go forwards. And as we're building out the San Diego Angel Conference opportunity here, you should be asking from pitch competitions or angel groups, what is the rubric of that 3-minute pitch? What are the things that you're looking for in the 3-minute? If it's part of an angel group and you have a quarterfinal, semifinal, and you do have 3 minutes, you should stick with the 3 minutes. And what, again, is their rubric? How do you go forwards, right? So just wanted to give you those two objectives for this time. So the agenda is first is we get to yes. That is a slogan for San Diego Angel Conference. But I wanted to just preface that too, is that a lot of angel groups want to get to yes. They want to get to yes based on their investment thesis and connecting the right entrepreneurs that have great innovations with great founders that have found a competitive advantage to be able to make money for those investors and for the founder. So no matter what, we're talking about any entrepreneur, any investor group really wants that. And they're looking at, they have a certain type of philosophy that we'll go into that you can capitalize for your 3-minute pitch. I'm going to be very, very specific to 3 minutes is more distinct than a 10-minute, right? So we'll go down this way. What is a pitch deck and why? And that pitch deck being that 3-minute. Your value proposition to investors, and why is the pitch deck important? Then we're going to go into a template. A lot of you have seen already my template out there, and I have recreated all of these slides to make sure that's a little bit new, and making sure that you're not seeing the same thing, and the typical outline as well for the 3-minute, and general tips at the end presentation and design. So that is agenda for today. Wanted to preface again that investors are usually in this round of the 3-minute, and investors that possibly all of you are looking at as angel investors. That's pre-seed and seed round of startups. Pre-seed and seed is before, of course, Series A. Pre-seed and seed is right over friends and family, right after friends and family and fools, right? So pre-seed does not necessarily need to have revenue. It's always recommended always to have revenue, but pre-seed about 50-50 have revenue and 50% don't. Seed, typically you're getting 75% that have revenue, 25% that do not have revenue, and typically the do not have revenue are life science. Right? Life science, deep tech companies that need to have a lot of non-dilutive capital like SBIR funding, STTR, NSF, NIH to be able to kind of go across that chasm and get into the next round of financing. Usually it's investors are about 4 million qualified to be accredited 4 million are qualified to be angel investors. They typically have a net worth of less than $5 million. So typically there's 300K active angel investors in the US, and about 26% of them are female, 24% are male. And typical investment deals are about 10K all the way to 50K. You'll see a couple of them going to 100 and 200K, but typically in San Diego, in regions that are not Silicon Valley and New York City, you're looking at this kind of range, right? To think about a one check that is going to be written to you at 100K, that might be something that is not ideal for the environment that you're in, and at the stage that you're in. So that's just kind of giving you that feedback. Of course, many of you on the line probably are thinking, well, I've heard this and I've heard that and I've heard this, and what about this? That's not absolutely correct. Well, I would answer all of those questions that it depends. So investors, and especially angel investors, are as varied as the hues of a rainbow, not colors of the rainbow, hues of the rainbow. So some of them are the network that is lower or higher. Some of them have the investment deal that they're typically writing $100,000 checks. That's fine. My answer will always be, it depends. And the deals are that typically they have, and this is coming from data from the Angel Capital Association. So that's an organization that I'm on the board on. And we do a lot of data analysis on angel trends. So it's about 77K deals per year. There's about 24 billion invested per year in the angel round. The average deal is 345K, and the average valuation at pre-seed seed is 2.7 million. Now, again, people are probably squirming in their seats going, well, maybe, yes, it depends. So, but this part is coming from data, from over about like 300 angel investors that gave the data to, or even more, to Angel Capital Association. So let's move on. A little bit of an investment life cycle. The reason why I say this is because it's really important in the pitch that we're going to be talking about. This right here is what we're talking about right here. The value of death in the middle, that you're doing pre-seed, seed stage funding, and you're seeing a dip, right, of the cash flows and revenue before you go up. So it's a lot. If you're seeing something like this and you're trying to convince an investor to invest in you, they're seeing this dip. No matter how beautiful, wonderful, exciting, innovative your company is, there is a valley of death. So there is a matter of convincing through trust building in the pitch that you're creating. So all of that is part of that storytell. It's about how do I present the data so they understand, yes, I am going through this valley of death, but I'm here to show you a really great investment opportunity. Okay, so the angel investor philosophy based on the 3-minute pitch to get you even more ready for it is that they believe in companies that are temporary organizations, right, in search of a repeatable, scalable, and profitable business model. They want to see that at this really early stage. So sure enough, one of your pitch slides, pitch deck slides should be business model. They also recognize that early stage businesses, you do not know the certainty of where your business model will be. You're just throwing a dart on valuation, you're throwing a dart on revenue, you're throwing a dart on a lot of different things. It's the story that you're creating in that 3-minute pitch that allows you to convince that investor to invest in your investable company. And also investors know that capital will be required to fully develop the business model. They know that the 3 C's of capital will be used for you to scale. Those 3 C's of capital are financial capital, relational capital, and experiential capital, meaning that as an angel investor, they're not just bringing in financial capital, but they're bringing in their network and they're bringing in their expertise in their industries into the company to be able to grow. So that's why that 3-minute pitch is really important, to just have a great story that they can dig their teeth into, saying, oh, I can give back in this way. I can bring value to this company because I know my network can actually show up for this company, and my money will be made better, will be used to a greater extent if I bring all these things to the table and that company can actually use it. So that's a little bit of the background of what you're trying to communicate in that 3-minute. The pitch deck itself is, what is it, right? This is just a typical pitch deck of one of my portfolio companies. This is a prime example of a 3 to 5 minute pitch. You only have 3 to 5 minutes, and typically one slide costs you about 30 seconds. So really, this is a pared down version of that. You'll see a little bit better examples of her pitch later on. So you want it to make it easy for investors to get to yes, right? Oh, and there's a question in the chat that, will we get a recording of this webinar? Yes, you will, for sure. So the 3 C's are financial, relational, and experiential. So their network, their experience, and their money, cha-ching, right? So those are the 3 C's of capital. Remember your audience that you're trying to create this pitch for. The audience is looking at probably around 20 companies a week, right? So if they're looking and scanning through your 3-minute pitch, or they're hearing it, they want to be able to remember certain salient pieces of your pitch so that they can actually evaluate it very easily. They can write down quick notes, or they can talk to their partners about investing in you, or they're going to talk about it to their other angels in their angel group, or in a larger network, a syndicated network. So you want to make it really chunkable, really easy to understand. And sometimes you want to put more information, but sometimes it's better to have that 3-minute pitch that somebody can look at and be able to glean information and then move forwards towards a decision. And the 3-minute pitch, very importantly, is just one of the cogs in the wheel of getting your company financed. So I like to bring this up because there's a quote out there by Blaise Pascal, very long ago, French mathematician, is that I made this letter so long only because I didn't have time to make it shorter. So I preface the whole 3-minute pitch piece is that it's very hard to make something shorter. It's very easy to do a 30-minute pitch, and you're like, I have 30 minutes. I want to tell them everything. I get it. That's super easy to do. The harder thing is to distill the most salient, important parts of your business and the traction that you have and the business model, the clarity of that business model in a very short time period. That takes time. So it is not easy. It seems like very easy when you see a template that you're going to see right now, but it's very hard to distill down to 3 minutes. I just wanted to kind of preface all of that. Okay, so the recommendations is that hopefully you can create a 12-slide deck is recommended to build the entire story. And you'll see on the next slide, I think it's the next slide, I say it's always the next slide, but the template of how many slides, the 12 that are typical. Yes, you're going to say, well, I've been told that, yes, I know, 12. There's a couple of slides that are specific for the 3-minute. But when I go through that, I'll say the areas that can be changed. You can prepare other slides that you believe may be helpful and useful in the Q&A section. So if you know that you have 3 minutes to pitch and 5 minutes of Q&A, or 3 minutes to pitch and 3 minutes of Q&A, that's equally as important what you leave out of your pitch than what you leave into your pitch, and what you leave out, and you know that you're going to get that first question in the Q&A that you can answer super succinctly and very impactful. That might be even more important than even your whole entire 3-minute pitch, right? So just think about that. If you don't have Q&A in a pitch competition, you should know these two pieces. Then you have to maybe put a little bit more information in the 3-minute to be able to tell the whole story of your company. So just kind of giving you that piece of information. In the pitch deck, you have the opportunity to tell us about each part of your expected business model. When you present your model to us, we are especially interested in what you know to be the case and what you suspect to be the case. And I put that out and I read that out because I want to make sure I'm clear. Sometimes when you see a roadmap, or you see funding that observed, or the business model or traction, sometimes I've seen entrepreneurs just kind of put everything together. This is what we're thinking about. And a little bit you've done before, a little bit that you're doing now, and then a little bit that you're doing later on. Be as succinct as what you know to be the case and what you're hoping to be and what you project to be, right? So just know that the more that you can be as transparent, as clear as possible, the investor will really love that. So, and then also, for what you know, tell us why you know this is true. And that specifically is important in the financials. A lot of people in the 3-minute pitch, you won't have enough time to go through your financials. But sometimes whenever the Q&A comes up, they might ask you, can you pull up your financials? You pull them up. You won't have enough time to go through all the financials, but what are the assumptions that you're making in those financials? You can put up a hockey stick type of financial projection that everybody else has, but you say, you know what, the assumptions that we made were, number one, the customers will love what we're doing and they're going to come back, and our ARR, the annual return of, the ARR or any kind of MRR that you're doing, monthly returning revenue, this is what we assume that to be. That is why we're going to build it this way. Or, you know what, the way that is going to have this little piece that's going to increase our sales is because we're going to go into Nordstrom's at that time, that we're assuming that, because we already have great conversations with Nordstrom's and we know it's going to take us about 6 months to get there. Those assumptions are the story of the projections. Okay, so think about that as you're going through your pitch. The must-haves is that you're trying to build credibility and trust. Trust is the most valuable currency for early stage investing. You want to communicate your value proposition. What are you doing really, really well? What's the value to the customer, and how you're keeping that competitive advantage with that customer. Why your team? That's more like the founder market fit. When I see excellent founder market fit, I'm like, I want to know more about this company. And how I realize that the founder market fit is if somebody has been in the market for a very long time. Let's say there was one example of this woman who I was hearing pitch from, and she was in Verizon for many, many years, and she knows the tech world really well and the cellular tech arena. And she was doing something that really indicates a knowledge of what that cell industry is doing good and bad. So she knew that expertise and says, okay, I'm going to build something based on that expertise so that I can really find that competitive advantage and leverage that. Wow. Yes, I'm hands down. I want to know that company. I want to know more about that company. Product market fit is a little bit hard to get at the really early stages, but what are some of the breadcrumbs that you have found to indicate that you are close to having product market fit? That's what you should have in your pitch deck. And then why now? The trends in the markets and the increase in the markets and all of those things are the reasons why you want to communicate why now. Okay, So this is a template. These are all of the slides, a 12-slide startup pitch deck. And I'm going to go through each one of them, right? So the ones that are in these little arrows right here are the typical things that I see in a 3-minute pitch. Of course, some people might be saying, oh, well, I really want to have this other one. That's fine. But typically you have the opening, the problem and solution, you have some type of market validation, and you have a business model. That's like kind of like the first paragraph or the first bracketed piece of information. The competition and go-to-market strategy, depending on your company, right? If the elephant is in the room is that you are one startup with lots of competition, you might want to put that competition slide in there because you want to address the elephant in the room, even in the 3-minute. If, let's say, the go-to-market strategy is really complicated, or that you have some kind of unfair advantage in that go-to-market strategy because you know somebody or somebody's on your board that will allow you to like leapfrog through some go-to-market strategy piece, then you want to maybe add that go-to-market strategy saying, you know what, we're going to actually be able to execute this because we have the right team in place. Interesting story, right? But if you don't have those things, you might want to kind of just have them not be part of the 3-minute, put them in the appendix slides. Then, of course, you have to have team and traction, some kind of project status, because the first question you're going to get if you do not have the traction slide is, what's the traction? What have you been able to accomplish? Now, if you have a lot in your 3-minute, you might actually maybe want to put the traction slide in the first like Q&A slide, but that's a little bit of a gamble. Next is future projections and financials. It's sometimes just so hard to review it and you're just going to go through them really, really fast. You might say, okay, I'm going to have that in the Q&A. And then the last two are the ask and the closing slide. The closing slide is just like your email, your contact information. And of course, the floater, which I always love a floater at the very end, an executive summary that has like, let's say 5 bullets. This is why you would want to invest in me. The trick is you click that into the Q&A section. You say, any questions now? So during the time that somebody asks you a question, which typically takes about 15 seconds, everybody's seeing that executive summary. Oh, that is amazing, right? Because people are seeing why would they invest in you. So that's just a little bit of a trick, but a good trick, right? Not a bad trick. With that, I also wanted to preface that I really worked hard last year. I did exactly the same workshop prepping the 3-minute startup pitch. And this is actually different than what I presented last year. But this right here is on YouTube at the Brink SBDC. There's a link right here. I'll kind of go to it if I think you can see this, but this is where it starts in the YouTube channel. So I'll go back to here and I think, yeah. Can you see the workshop again? Can somebody tell me? I went back and forth.
Yes,
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that this is available for you, and this one that we're doing today is not completely different. It's the same topic, but I really was very careful not to repeat myself. This actually workshop is based on my ultimate pitch tech template that I actually created a whole new company and created a whole deck built on that company. And I used just $5 to create a logo and to do everything that I did in that pitch deck with zero money. Well, $5. So anybody can create a pitch deck from the template that I have there. So next up is looking at awareness, just thinking about how am I telling the story of the 3-minute, especially the 3-minute, is that am I communicating that I'm a candy, a vitamin, or painkiller? Because in a 5-minute or 10-minute, you have enough time to tell your story that you don't have to be so upfront to make sure people know why you're doing what you're doing. Right? You have to be really careful with every single word that you use in the 3-minute. 10-minute, you can use as many words as you want, and they're going to define at the end if you're a candy, vitamin, or painkiller. So the candy is something your target customer would like to buy. It's pleasurable, it's fun, it's all those things. The vitamin is something your target customer should buy. And the painkiller is something your target customer will buy because it solves a very concrete, needed problem. So if you have that awareness coming into that 3 minute, you can hit the ground harder by saying, you know what, the problem is, wow, this, and my solution solves this for so many people that completely need this solution. Or, you know what, it's about community building. It's about building better communities that connect closer together. And my platform does exactly that. That's more like a vitamin, right? So to be able to just have this awareness, it's super important in this very short story tell. The opening is give us your elevator pitch. What is your vision, mission if you want? Why do you exist? You could do what are your BHAGs or big, hairy, audacious goals. You could start with a question for audience engagement. You don't have to start with I am blah, 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 and my company is blah. You could say, imagine a place that blah, 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 right? Or you could say, have you ever experienced this? Well, that's what my company does. You can do a lot of those things depending on the audience that you're going to be giving this 3-minute pitch to, okay? So an example, very easy, is Innovation Cities and where diversity breeds innovation. This is a company that I invested in, and very easy. And she kind of talks at the very beginning about that innovation. The better innovations come from a diversity aspect of creating new ideas for new spaces and new markets. Next up is the problem. Very simple. What problem are you solving? But the most important thing, especially in the 3-minute, is the problem should be a direct connection with the solution. So I give this example all the time, is that there's a company that was doing recycled forks, knives, and spoons, and paper and plates out of bamboo, right? So she had the problem of, there's a huge problem of pollution in the open ocean, and there's just so much pollution and so much non-recycled things. But the solution actually is a very integrated system where not hospitals, but hotels can actually get recycled forks, knives, and spoons and plates, because it's very hard to source those, because it's just hard to do all in one place. But their customers are wanting this sustainability piece in their experience at the hotel. That's not truly solving the recycling problem. It is, but what is that problem that you're directly connecting? So the problem should have been, and we worked through it together, is that, you know, hotels have this challenge with their customers coming in wanting a sustainable solution, and everybody wants the world to be healthier and happier, but there's no platform that these hotels can go to get things cheaper and very easily and efficiently. That's the problem, right? Not that there's a recycling issue. So this is an example of one of my portfolio companies. Another portfolio company is that's Lilu, and this is the problem. Moms struggle to pump milk. There's not enough milk. There's about 30% discomfort and pain in that breastfeeding mom, and you are the sole provider of your child's food source is definitely stressful. That is the problem. And they have a new breast pump that they created, and that's the solution, right? So very easy. This is also giving you some design examples of a full bleed picture. Sorry that I didn't full bleed it over here on the white, but full bleed and the problem being in white. Very nice design. The solution is, what is a solution? Be as explicit as possible. I see a lot of like, the solution is, I don't know, companies that we help companies be more efficient by having a platform. Well, what is that solution? I don't know what it is. And then you go off on doing benefits. And then I'm like, wait a minute. What is the actual platform? What does it look like? Is it more a dashboard? Is it more like an AI platform? I don't know, right? So be as specific as possible, explicitly saying, we are a platform that does this, a lifestyle brand that does this, right? Very clear with pictures or something that says, okay, I'm going to pause. It's kind of like a pause in the first part of your 3-minute. My solution is this, because we're amazing. And now I'm going to prove to you that my team is great, the market's great, that people love us, and this is why people are buying from us. And it's really easy to buy it from us because we have a really great business model. How does it work? be concise and high level. You can do this in 2 slides for this, but be careful with that, right? Because it could be like the first slide is kind of, and the second slide is the solution, but then you miss the mark sometimes. And then the person at the end says, I still don't know what you do, right? So just be careful when you do 2 slides. I'll give you an example of 2 slides right now. So this is another portfolio company of mine, Eucora. They actually sold one of my exits, so that's great. So Eucora is a drink mix prevention for UTIs, and it's a drink mix that tastes like pink lemonade. So this is Eucora's preventive drink mix, gives women the defense they need when they need it most. So Eucora's drink mix is designed to be drank, blah, 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 and it's right there. This is one of her first slides, so it's a little old. It's probably like 7 years old, but I love how clear it is right here. Then she says, okay, the formula provides a multifold defense against bacteria, protecting in 3 unique ways: stops bacteria, increases urinary flow, supports immune function. So at first she had this on the first slide. So if you had this formula, you're like, well, then what is it? Like, is it a formula? Is it like a drink mix? Is it like cranberry juice? Is it an injection? Like, what is it? Because it's just a formula. So that's why that first one is super important. It's a drink mix, and the formula, next slide, provides this. Do you see how that is a really great story? The market is up next. So how big is your potential market? It's very simple, this one. How big is the total addressable market, serviceable available market, and serviceable obtainable market? That's TAM, SAM, and SOM, right? What trends have you identified? What data sources have you used to make these measurements? And are these data sources reliable and recognizable? So you can really put a lot into this market slide. You don't want to have a lot of like references that are like really ugly at the very bottom, maybe one reference. You could also say that it's all in the appendix as well. So this is one way of doing it. This is a company that just wanted to show a lot of the faces that are her customers, and that is like 50 million US women, hormone-driven health changes. This is 50 by 50 or something at that company. I have another example of this company later on, but she chose to do it this way instead of TAM, SAM, SOM. So I'm just giving you a couple of different options. This is one of my portfolio companies, Hydrostasis. They are a medical device, a consumer device company. So it's SOM, SAM, and TAM, SAM, and SOM, describing it a little bit different ways. It's a different kind of design than you probably typically see. And the initial targets she put up here, because a lot of times that she got was, okay, you're doing a consumer device that is hydration. Well, what about Fitbit? What about like Apple Watch? So she put this up front so that people know that she's doing these initial targets, and this is what the markets are. They're huge, right? So she's worked on this a lot. It's probably like version like 50 of her pitch deck. And then lastly, this was another company, portfolio company of mine, and it's a solar company that was doing community solar. So the market opportunity is more, they wanted to show that this is where it was right here in 2020, a $16 billion community solar, and actually it's going to grow to 2030, 81 billion, because the elephant is in the room was that nobody knew what community solar was, right? So she really wanted to hone in why community solar is a good investment, and that is a big market that leads to a larger market later on. So really understand your story, really understand what the elephants are in the room, and identify things every single slide that you clarify that elephant, right? Or you clarify those doubts that investors might have. So up next is, this is the other example. This is the made up company FunFabFit AI from the last year's presentation. And I use this all the time in any of my courses, is that sometimes you want to have this like 3 circle diagram of that. We have 3 different things that we're bringing together, 3 markets bringing together, because we're really fitting way in the middle. This is one way of kind of showcasing that. So the business model is another slide that some entrepreneurs have a little bit of a challenge with, but please, 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 what is your exact business model? Not like we're going to be making this amount of money because this customer really likes us and we're talking to some restaurants and this. No. Put it into 2 buckets, 3 buckets, 3 circles, 4 squares, whatever that looks like, so that we say, okay, the business model is 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or it's B2C, B2C, B2B, licensing, franchising. Be as specific as possible, because then we can talk to other investors. Oh, their business model is right on. It's this and this and this. And that allows us to anchor on what we understand, because there's a lot of things that we don't understand in a pitch deck, but we actually know the business model kind of lingo. So help us anchor our thoughts into what you're doing. How will you measure success, right? Make an honest, upbeat, substantive, and credible claim about the business potential in terms of sales and profitability, and understand your revenue streams. It's a cash you will generate from each customer segment, right? So think about the customer segments that you have, talk about revenue streams, all of those things are important to put into a distillation of your business model. So I'll give you some examples. So this is Van Life, another portfolio company of mine. So on the business model is the revenue streams are here. She put actually the projections and the business model in the same slide. I gave you this because she wanted to make it very clean and simple, her pitch deck. So the revenue streams are subscription, data, and targeted advertising, so that she can reach a projected revenue of 178 million in year 5. Very clear. Do you think that if you saw this, could you repeat it pretty much word for word about 5 minutes later? I would say you probably could, right? That's what she was trying to accomplish, was investors talking to other investors about her company, not saying like, I don't really understand the business model. I don't know. You have to look at their pitch deck, or I completely understand the business model. Boom, boom, boom. They're going to make this much. Pretty easy to relate. Competition. Number 1, you will always have competition. Nobody does not have any competition. Think about direct competitors, indirects, and common occurrences. I didn't know how to like explain that, but for instance, the competition for one of my portfolio companies, Hair Hub, everybody kind of knows it in San Diego. It's a co-working space for female entrepreneurs. Is that the direct competitors are the other co-working spaces? Amen, right? We know that. Indirects are Starbucks, Pete's Coffee Shop, any kind of shop that you can actually like meet a client in and do some work. That's an indirect competitor. And the common occurrences are the spare bedroom. The spare bedroom is a competition to a co-working space like Hair Hub. Okay, so what alternatives are out there? Competitive landscape. 2 typical ways to present that information. One is a competitor table, list of competitors along the top and the features on the side. The competitors can be groupings or individuals, and features should be limited to 5 or 7 max to tell a story. The XY axis, my favorite, because it actually distills things down even further. I love things that are kind of the XY axis typically, when somebody can do that, is because they already have a competitor table and they're like, I want to talk about this a little bit more succinctly. So pick 2 features that are most relevant to your competitive advantage, and your startup is always in the top white quadrant, and easy to show that you bring what you bring in the missing piece. So that's why the XY axis is really important. This is examples. This is a table. So this was that company that I was talking about with that first market that had just pictures. This is a 50 & Co. I'm sorry, I didn't remember that company. So 50 & Co. I see this a lot, that sometimes you have the companies down the left and the features above the right on the top. I actually don't prefer this. I like the features down the left and the companies across the top, but I wanted you to see what that looks like, because sometimes it's really hard to evaluate something when you haven't seen it. So the check marks, and I like that they use the dollar amounts to see like how pricey or not pricey it is. And then this is competitive landscape down here of the company. Just Her Rideshare is down this way. Then there's Lyft and Uber. So she does not use the check mark. She uses like ones that are circular, and then half, and then a quarter, whatever that looks like. And these are how they differ from the competitors. So matches women drivers 100%. Just her rideshare. Extensive background checks, Just Her Rideshare. So these are the things that make her stand out, as opposed to the technology, the platforms out there. So really, really important. And I always try to do it in here on the left-hand side here, because if you're looking at the slide deck, always you look from it from top left to bottom right. So I'm seeing, the first thing I see is this piece right here, instead of having to have competitor, and then the company on this side. I can't see the the congruence of the features and the company that I'm evaluating in the pitch that I'm being given. Then the matrix, I'll give you two examples here. Again, another portfolio company, Grow Guru, and they have the XY axis as annual crops versus perennial crops, and they do for annual crops really well with low cost and acreage, low acreage. And this is high cost, high acreage. I like how they have it kind of, you would say high cost would be on the right-hand side. So you can flip the axis so that you are always on the top right. And you'll see here a little bit that they have 3 different products. That's why I gave this example, 3 different products within the company and how they showcase in the competitive landscape. This is one of my students at Biola University, and they did a competitive landscape on their company that was for women, communicating about just all kinds of healthcare issues. So they foster community and provide women's health information. And that's them right there, as opposed to Reddit. I like that they had that example of Reddit as a platform that's not necessarily with healthcare, but something that people go to for information. Flow, Electra, and Clue. So I like that. The next slide would be go to market. How will you decide this idea? How will you get this idea to market? Sometimes a more technical way is to do a high level Gantt chart if you want to. I would not try to be so what's it called? Like scientific and technical and engineering wise to do a full on Gantt chart, but you can do something that looks like a Gantt chart. Stages is a nice way to present it all. And if you are going to do metrics, think about your North Star. Your North Star should be a couple of metrics that you are like grounded on, that you are looking at every single day, that your team is grounded on, that you're going towards your North Star metrics. You should actually know what those are and say, okay, what are the metrics that in that go-to-market strategy allow us to get to a better North Star metrics that we're shooting for. Plans for your business, financials, and marketing. Consider early adopters and dependencies for next level adoption. So at the very early stage, obviously, you're going to have early adopters that get into the market faster and they love your company. But how do they influence the next level adopters? You can talk about beachhead market, but how does that beachhead market influence others? That's how you can build that go-to-market strategy that makes a lot of sense. Examples are, this is the community solar company, is that early adopters become ambassadors that spread solar to networks. So here's contacts educated, then the wait list created and agreements, right? With how many megawatts and how many households. And this is the current conversion rates that they had at that time, online combined and offline. So they're saying that go-to-market strategy is really getting into households, making sure that they understand what community solar is, and that early adopters become ambassadors that spread solar to networks. So that's how they're going to grow this business. The team is one of the, like the third to last slide, I think. And everybody kind of knows this is brief bios for your executive team. And I said, easy to scan if you have logos, right? And keep bios to bullets. So you're thinking about, they're looking at 20 companies a week. How can they scan quickly that you have the right team that executes the right things to be able to scale your company? And then of course, board of directors and or advisory board. So this is an example of another portfolio company of mine, Aquacycle, and that's Oriana. This is one of her first pitch decks, like probably 10 years ago, right? So that she has a bigger team now, but this is just 3 people. I was thinking about you guys as pre-seed seed, and these are the 3 co-founders, and this is their board of directors here. You'll see that Oriana is coming from USC and the Craig Venture Institute. She has like 1,000 other things that she does, but she used these logos to allow somebody to quickly, if you scan this, you're like, oh, Craig Venture, Sony, great, wonderful. I know exactly where she's at, and that she has support on her executive team that they're gonna knock this out of the park. Traction. I wanted to build this out because we want to make sure that you talk about how you're pushing the company forwards, what to include in the traction. This is something that actually Benton, our other advisor at the Brink SBDC, and I have a little bit different views of what traction is. So this asterisk right here is some investors do not see this as true traction. Don't over-index on LOIs, MOUs, winnings, like pitch competitions and stuff like that. The real traction is revenue, users, clients, and contracts. There's other like tried and true things that are specific to your industry. Know those and say, okay, how do I get that traction up on a pitch deck? You can use LOIs on MOUs. I mean, early stage is early stage, people. You have to build somewhere. So I would just make sure that you talk about those LOIs. That's letters of intent and memorandums of understanding. LOIs and MOUs. And typically you can get those from contracts that are not necessarily signed, but they're going to send you a letter saying, whenever you have the funding or whenever the product is ready to go, we are all in. That's important. That might be all that you have. That's okay. But just know that some investors don't think that that's true traction. The traction here I'm giving you is one of the companies that was our Funders of Color Showcase. And I loved his traction, 600K in revenue from pilots. Again, here, pilots, not real contracts, but pilots. Over 500 companies using diversity platform. Current sales pipeline, not that he has those sales, but pipeline. You see that? That's a little bit different, but then he can say it's 12 million ARR. And then he went through Techstars, Google for Startups, features as top HR tech company. That's more of like a winning and impact company of the year of 2022. So these three, I would say that, I mean, Google for Startups and Techstars, because he's probably getting some funding from Techstars, is important. But these two, for some investors, might not be a big deal. But that if that's what you have, that's what you have. And these are the companies that, some examples of the companies that he has the pipeline from. So I think that those are the pilots, and the pipeline is down here. Financials is one thing that I said that as a 3-minute pitch, you might not need to put in there. But it's okay that you are not revenue generating, but what is your financial forecast over the next 3 to 5 years? I always say it's important to build from your assumptions as an expert or from your market research. And that's what I love to talk to entrepreneurs about as an investor. I'm like, what are your assumptions? Come on. Why did you build this financial projection? I know everybody has a hockey stick. Like anybody has a hockey stick. What are your assumptions? How are you inputting that data? So that's that. And this is just an example of a projection that I wanted to give you something that was not a hockey stick and an example of what that looks like. So year 1, B2C, B2B, that's also using the business model to help them build a story. Oh, sorry. Year 2 is here and year 3 is here with the totals of this. So it's a different view of using a hockey stick. So I wanted to give you that example. The ask is very important. I'm running out of time, so I want to make sure I get that to at least one person who wants to pitch. How much are you asking for? Don't just have a number, but what you are going to use it for. How will you spend it? How long will this enable you to develop the product or business? How else can the investor help? Maybe ask, oh, sorry. I don't have a space there. Your ask is connections and introductions. Add that into your ask possibly. It might not be written, but when you're talking about it in a 3-minute, you're like, look, we're looking for this much. This is how much we're going to use. And we're really looking for investors who can get us into these markets. That's an ask, right? That's not financial. What to include is down here. The financial vehicle, the safe, convertible note, preferred equity, the total amount of raise with a pie chart. I like a pie chart. It's easier to evaluate. Same sort of thought process as the logos for the team. A pie chart is super easy to evaluate. This is where they add. How much is soft circled or hard circled? Can you oversubscribe? Who's already in this round? If you know that, and you can get permission from those investors that they're already in the round, that you can actually talk about that. Because I have seen that startups are out there saying, oh, I have already in this round Techstars, or I have X angel group, or I have Y VC. We're actually texting the VC and the angel group like, have you seen them? Are you actually investing? And when they say no, you're out, right? It's not the greatest thing that's happened to me many times. So do you have a lead investor? You might not have one in pre-seed and seed. That's okay. But if you do, and if you have the permission, put it on your ask slide. That's really important. And then some milestones to achieve if you have enough room. So the ask right here, I made one that was pretty easy. This is from the Van Life app, one of my portfolio companies. So use of funds is very much here. So if you're looking at this in the pie chart, you're basically saying, if you don't even look at anything that's in the pie chart, you're like, okay, over 50% is this orange. What's this orange? Development and data. Therefore, what does that tell you in the company? That tells you that they're really early, right? That they're still developing and building data, that they're not really looking at marketing. That's okay, but it allows us to know where you are in the company. That's like a 2-for-1 in the use of funds. If I'm seeing like 20% development or R&D and like 50% marketing, I'm like, okay, they actually already have their platform or whatever they've developed done. They're looking to scale. Interesting. Do I want to invest in marketing and sales? Do I want to invest in their scale? Yes or no, depending on my investment thesis, right? So this is how much they're raising, 525. It's a minimum of 50K investment, and it's a discounted convertible note. The closing should be thank you, contact information. This also can have a slide that presents any other information you believe is important to investors, maybe your slogan, a summary slide, all of that. This is an example of my portfolio company, Hydrostasis. She is a Muay Thai fighter. So this is one of her fights. And she ends with optimal hydration for peak performance. Like, wow. And they're going to remember her as that's ending very memorably. People will always remember that she's a Muay Thai fighter. And then this is another example of a last slide. This is Dapper Boy, another portfolio company of mine. And they just say, join us. They want to have that picture of the product that they're selling and email and website. Another example is this diversity. That was the one that was I used for the traction slide. And they use a very more traditional thank you closing slide is let's close this $4 trillion workforce DEI gap together. This is the contact information and a little bit about all their team and what they're doing. So general tips is be authentic in your 3 minutes. Avoid heavy use of industry-specific jargon. Keep it as simple as possible and build trust with that investor. I'm going to come up to the story arc next, is that no matter what your 3 minute is, you want to have a story arc that allows for investor to engage, stay engaged, right? With no jargon, no nothing, kind of keeping. So at the end, they ask really great questions and they want a follow-on meeting. You're really not clarifying all the things that you're doing in 3 minutes. You can't, right? You physically cannot. So you want to just really high level, a story arc that builds trust, that builds excitement, hope, and like the want to learn more, right? So that's what you're trying to do in 3 minutes. Another piece before we get somebody to come up here and give one 3 minute pitch is that understand the dynamics between entrepreneurs and investors. Is that if you're looking at like solution, business model, market, and team and ROI and the ask, typically an investor is looking at problem solution, competition and sales, and then market opportunity, and less so on team and ROI use of funds. But this is what they're looking for. The entrepreneur is like tech solution. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the business model. And then they kind of come together that market opportunity is something that both of them can see really well. And then its team is higher for entrepreneurs and the ask is higher. So just kind of giving you that perspective of the dynamics between the two. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing. I know that went a little bit longer than I expected, but I have some chats in here. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to answer the questions. Okay, great. Really great question. How do you define traction outside of revenue? Is it team updates? Yes. So great question about traction. So if you do not have revenue and you cannot like build a traction slide based on revenue, that's why I went into like what you could do traction of the founder was like Forbes 20 under 20 or something, or 30 under 30. It's not 20 under 20. That's really bad. But 30 under 30 would be interesting. If you've won anything, a pitch competition, the traction could be pilots, even if they're unpaid, right? We have a pilot with a hospital. We have a pilot with a K-12 school. We have a pilot with a restaurant, whatever that looks like that is important to you as a pilot, even if it is unpaid, that is important because that's communicating to the investor two things. One is your technology is built out that you feel confident that a customer can actually test it in a pilot. And number two is that you've talked to a customer enough that you got a customer that's willing to interact with you, and that customer is willing to possibly buy from you in the future and co-create with you your solution. So those two things of the solution piece of the product and also like buying power of that pilot is super important. So hopefully that answered your question. The traction on use of funds, are financial projections typically post money? Yes, usually you're assuming that you have money coming in. Post money means, just for everybody to know, is post money is after you've got your their financing in for the round that you are pitching for. So the financial projections are post money that you got this money in the door. Therefore, you have these projections. So that's wonderful. So yes, on use of funds, is it helpful to see two pie charts, one of past funds distribution versus projected funds distribution? I have never seen that. So one pie chart that indicates how you are using the funds. So your use of funds is typically the pie chart, right? Of like 20% for R&D, 20% for new hires or key hires, not personnel, right? Or not like salaries. It's key hires is important. So all of that is that pie chart. And then you're saying past funds distribution. So I don't know what that truly means, but if you say like, we have put in $20,000 as the founders, you should put that in there. Friends and family, if you have a friends and family round, because no matter what, those investors are going to ask you, did you do a friends and family round? Did you put in money into the company? And the answer is no and no. We might kick it back to saying, try to figure out what you can get together in friends and family if you're super early, right? So that's that.
Sylvia, sorry, I know because we're trying to time. Just to clarify my question there, so I realized it was unclear. What I was curious about was you had mentioned, hey, I look at this pie chart, it's over 50% is in data and development. That tells me they're probably still early because they're building the product, which I thought was a really interesting insight. What I was wondering is it helpful for the investor to see like, okay, last year we were 60%, 60% of our expenses were towards development, but this year, if we raise the funding, we're going to put, 60% into marketing. Does that give you a sense very quickly? Okay, now I know what stage this company's at.
Yeah, great question. And I understand where you're coming from now. Thank you. Typically, that slide that is the ask slide of use of funds, you want to really focus on what's coming up next. What's your use of funds going forward? How you can answer the question that you just said, like last year we did this. You could do that as a roadmap. You could do that as, this is what we've done in the past. We've built the company. We've done this. We've done the technology. We got a patent. We got an SBIR grant. And we're right here, like in the middle right here, like current. And going forwards, our roadmap is to do X, Y, Z with the use of funds. Now, I know that that's not on the same page, but if you try to mix things up a little bit, it might not be as beneficial for you, because then they're like, we don't see the use of funds. We don't like, they're like, investors are like, and this, and this, and this, and this, right? Because they're evaluating your company versus all the other companies that are coming through their pipeline. So that's why you want to keep it the same, but you can answer it in the roadmap. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. Thanks, George. Jeremy, sorry. I'm like, Jeremy, sorry about that. So another question is, I'm pre-revenue. How should I prepare to answer financial questions if asked in Q&A? How should I make the financial projections? So the financial projections should be from where you are right now and what you project in the future, up to 5 years. So yes, you can be pre-revenue, but you're going to go forwards and build the projections based on, okay, in my first year, I think I'm going to sell 100 units of what I've created. And that's what I'm going to have that first year. The second year, we are going to go into retail. We're going to go into Whole Foods, and that's going to bump up our units, and we're going to sell this. So that's how you build from there. And you can answer the financial projections. You can say, we are pre-revenue. We're building this still, but there's a financial projections of the next 5 years. Oh yeah, so how do we find SDAC's pitch rubric? We do not have a pitch rubric. We are just recommending that these are the typical 12 slides that you should have presenting in the 3 minute. So, and usually it's the 5 M's of investing. So I'm going to remember if I usually do remember, but I'm tired. So M is management, which is your team, market, money, model, and momentum. So those are usually the 5 M's that all investors are kind of looking at. So you want to be broadly looking at those things. Does a pitch Brink offer reviews of pitches? Yes, Stephen said, yes, we do. Register for services, and there's a link to register for services of improving your pitch, and that you can get reviews done usually by Zoom, right? Because it's just easier for advisors to do that. We can do it in person if you request that. I don't do that much in person. A lot of advisors don't, because we want to be able to support more entrepreneurs, and we just go from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom to Zoom all day long. So that's that. And I think I've answered all of the questions, and we are out of time. So I'm sorry that we were not able to go through one person's 3-minute pitch, but there's a lot of examples online. And if you want to meet with an advisor, please sign up for the Brink SBDC advisory services. I do pitch prep aspects all the time, reviewing the 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But remember, the 3-minute is not going faster to go down to 3 minutes. It's about distilling information that allows for investors, to understand your business model, understand your company, that they can know that's an investable company with the right team in place, with the right product in the right market at the right time, for them to invest in your company and make the ROI that they want to make with the investments that they're going to go forwards with. So good luck to everybody. Again, this is going to be on YouTube, and we have the other one from last year, which covers similar things, but it's covering an example of a company that I made up, right? But that made up company is based on 200 companies that I've invested in, and over thousands of companies that I have evaluated. So both of them should be really great for you to be able to have the best 3-minute pitch. And you guys are wonderful founders that are creating impactful companies. Honor that, get inspired by that, and just wish you all the luck in the world when you're talking to investors. You got this. Thanks for coming today. Bye.